Okay. So I'm going to throw out a statement and ask you if it's true or false. And
Okay.
you are going to throw out a statement at me, and I will say if it's true or false, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
I think we've both prepared a couple here.
Yes.
Whatever. I'm sure you have more than that because you're more well prepared than I am.
No, never. Oh no, that is not. We both know that is not the case.
But I will let you go first. Go for it. Do your thing.
Okay. So mine again, and I just want to preface, these are like forward thinking, but also based on what we've seen so far. So
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
So my first one is Chet Holmgren will win Rookie of the Year.
Ooh, I like it. It's getting spicy. Let's go. Yeah. You know the Shannon Sharp Mountain Dew thing? He's like, ooh, yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love the take.
Good.
Yeah, look, a lot of stuff happening around the Oklahoma City Thunder today. Not going to get into that right
Yes.
now. But when it comes to Chet Holmgren, I think absolutely ding, ding, ding true. He is going to win the Rookie of the Year. I think he's on track to have the first ever rookie 50-40-90 season. And that's just incredible. Yes, he's in a great context. You know, it's like I was talking to Jackson Frank about this on the timeline, but it's like he is the perfect puzzle piece. It's like they have been searching for this exact player, and he's like he fits in almost seamlessly with what they want to do. Between him, SGA, and J-Dub, they have this nice trio that just works very, very well. And yes, I think, yes, absolutely. Let me go and pull up Chet's stats real quick because, why not?
Yeah.
We're a podcast. We should give people information.
It's it's crazy thinking back real quick, thinking back to that draft where he got selected to OKC because everyone kind of had, it was like, oh, what's going to happen with Paolo? What's going to happen with Jabari? Question marks, but everyone knew that Chet was going to OKC. And it was like, I mean, I remember some people being like, okay, this idea of this team should be putting the fear of God in people. And it's almost like everyone's just going to kind of like let it happen. And there's only so much you can do. Obviously you can't, there's only so much you can do, just but you could see it all coming together for OKC. And I think we all have sort of known that it's going to ultimately look like this. And so I think for OKC and OKC's fans, it's pretty phenomenal to kind of see it all starting to come together.
Yeah. I mean, look, Chet Holmgren, 17 points per game, 55, 43, 87 shooting splits. He's averaging 8 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 2.5 blocks, 1 steal a game. I mean, that's just incredible work. It's really, really fire. And like, not to mention that Wemby is also doing some incredible things right now, but it's just the fact that they're on completely different contexts. And I mentioned this, like, this is something that I talked about in my previews. I said the conversation will have to come. It'll come down to efficiency, right? Wemby is being asked to be the number one option on a really poor team, right? He doesn't have the perfect context next to him. Hey, some people would argue he doesn't even have a point guard to play with him. You know, the Jeremy Sohan conversation has been a big thing.
Yeah.
The plus minus with him and Trey Jones has been a big thing. And that whole conversation. By the way, Greg Popovich, can I just, as an aside, what an incredible moment last night with him saying, hey, we don't boo in this house. We don't boo in this house. We don't do that. Some people saw that as like old man yelling at cloud, but I fucking loved it. I loved every second of it. There is not one coach in the NBA who has the cojones to get up on the mic and say, hey, 18,000 people, shut the hell up.
Yeah.
But Greg Popovich has that kind of power. I thought that was awesome. Did you see that?
I did see that. And I also think that, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned the word power because obviously fans are going to would listen to a coach like that. But when it comes from someone like Greg Popovich, as opposed to someone with just a little bit less clout, like if it had come from like Will Hardy or like somebody that's a little bit newer, a little doesn't have just the history and the clout. And so it was a pretty big moment. And so I think it was very interesting to watch. And I thought it was cool. I thought it was definitely entertaining.
I thought it was sick. And like, a little aside, it's like it's a little free agency pitch to Kawhi Leonard. It's like, hey, by the way, you did leave on bad terms. We hated you. We misdiagnosed you, but also like if you want to come back, it's all good. There was a little
Yeah.
bit of that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that was funny. Okay, Wemby, 18.8 points per game, 43% from the field, 27% from three. He's chucking it a little bit there. 80% from the free throw line, 9.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1 steal, 2.5 blocks. So like overall, their numbers are pretty similar. It's just the efficiency that pops up to you, which is the main difference maker here. And I think it's impressive what Wemby is doing. I really do. But ultimately, I like if we this rookie of the year race is going to come down to splitting hairs because both of these guys are so talented that I think you have to give it to Chet. So I'm going to say true on that regard. I think I'm going to say true. Do you agree with that? Do you think that it is Chet Holmgren wins the rookie of the year?
I do agree, and I do wonder like how it. I mean, I don't want to say how it will be received, but I feel like Chet has been put in a position where everyone knew he was going to have a big year. You know what I mean? And so it's just another situation where it might not feel like a 100% true rookie of the year race. I feel like there's
also
a little
like the Malcolm Brogdon,
like a little bit of like yet another like this. I think this could be a perfect example of another year where it's like, is this the right way to go about something? And personally, I don't know the answer because I mean, Chet has been phenomenal and he's obviously not playing like a rookie at all. He's playing like a guy who's been in a professional environment and Wemby has too. It's just, it's a bit of apples and oranges to me. And so
really
I do think,
yeah.
And so I think that's what sort of begs the question is that the right way to evaluate it? I don't know. I think it's interesting and I think it's an interesting conversation, but I do think Chet will win it. I do think the efficiency, like you mentioned, the numbers, and also OKC's success so far, and what they may end up doing, I think will really kind of go in his favor for sure. So
the one thing I think of, right? I think of the rookie of the year race between LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony in 2003, 2004. Carmelo was on the better team. The Cavaliers were not a good team in LeBron's rookie year. In fact, LeBron kind of struggled efficiency-wise, much like Wemby is for the first couple months of his career. And the thing was, this is not me saying this. I was 8 years old, so I don't remember a lot of this stuff. I just remember, ooh, yeah, LeBron looks cool. But I remember Brian Windhorst saying on this podcast recently that the Cavs made a trade for Jeff McGinnis, a point guard. They did that halfway through the season, and LeBron started to look amazing. He skyrocketed in terms of his efficiency, everything like that. And I do wonder if something like that can change this race. Maybe the Spurs decide, hey, we're going to start Trey Jones now. And now Wemby's efficiency looks much better. He's catching it in his better spots. He's shooting better from three, et cetera, et cetera. He looks much better efficiency-wise. And now the conversation changes, right? So I think that's a part of it. And, if you look back to that rookie of the year race, Carmelo was on a better team in Denver. I think that team had just signed Andre Miller too. So like they were trying to be semi-competitive. I can't remember where they finished in the Western Conference, but ultimately they were trying to be a little bit more competitive than the Cavs were. And LeBron didn't make it to the playoffs until, year 2 or 3 of his career. I believe it was year 3. I think there's there's some interesting comparisons to be made here with that. Again, it's not an apples to apples comparison, but I do think that this thing could change as well. I don't think it's like a foregone conclusion that Chet's going to win it, like he's running away with it or anything. I think this thing will go back and forth as we progress.
I agree with that too.
Follow hosts at Just S. Barahini on all socials and at The Lauren Gunn on Twitter. The Objective Basketball Podcast, delivering the NBA to you like no other.